Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we'll date stamp this. This one is year 4, blog number 2, or in legacy numbers, it's blog 158, and it's dated the 2nd of March 2025. And generally, I look out the window, and I'll tell you what, it's a lovely, lovely sunny morning. You can probably tell by the light that's coming in through the bay windows that I've got here. And I was listening to the actual weather forecast on Friday, and they actually said, because it was the last of February, that we're finally past winter, and you could class tomorrow as the first day of spring, when actually the first day of spring is officially the 20th of March, which is the first equinox. And yeah, is this global warming moving things forward? I've got some little snowdrops appearing in the garden, which I've had for the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a sodden, wet February. A little bit of frost, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of patch of this for a few days. Be really, really nice if I could mow my lawn a little bit earlier rather than that huge clumps of grass that grow. But I'm digressing a little bit. Normally, I give a little bit of a feeling about how I've been this week, going into the news, and then I talk about my week. So, generally, I'm okay in myself. I've had a mixed week again, but not like the week before. I wasn't very well at all Thursday. I woke up Thursday, could not get rid of double vision. My eyes were watering. I've got a bit of a stuffy nose, but that can be anything sometimes, because my nose broke actually in my late 20s. And so the bridge of my glasses generally that rest on my nose is where the break was. So I get a stuffy sort of like sound out of my mouth. But other than that, things have been okay. So I managed to work through Thursday, although it was touch and go. I was really ready to speak to my manager and say, I can't work through this. I did get behind in my work, but I did explain to them, it is what it is, and I'll just work as hard as I can. But if you're sick, you're sick. And whatever you get out of me is a bonus, isn't it? Really? So I looked at it a bit like that. It's better than being paid on sick and getting no work, and being paid at work the same at the same rate and getting some productivity out of me. I always think that if you can work, try and do so. And Friday really for me was a sort of like rest day, because it's the last day of my holiday. Holidays go from February to February for me. So, of course, I have to get all of my holiday by the end of February. So I needed to get an extra day done, and that was done Friday. But again, pushing myself forward. Let's do the news, shall we? And oh my God, it's been a bit of an explosive news worldwide. Not so much during the UK. The whole attention has been on Ukraine, Russia, Trump, and Keir Starmer, to be quite honest. But we'll read it. I'll read out what I read on the news this morning when I woke up. Nothing really catastrophic like it was on Friday. But, nevertheless, there's a fallout from it. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Here we go. So Keir Starmer told Zelensky he has full backing across the UK as the two met at Downing Street. Zelensky said he was happy to have such friends. This happened after the meeting with President Trump ended with a war of words at the White House. The PM will hold a summit between European and Canadian leaders later, and then Zelensky will meet King Charles. So yeah, if you don't know, the war of words was the deal that was going to be made between Ukraine and America in regards to minerals and the start of the peace talks. There was a press conference in the White House, and it started off all cordial and everything, but then ended up being an absolute argument, to be quite honest. I think what started it off, from what I could tell, was the second in command, really, of America, saying that there was disrespect from Ukraine. I think that's the word that was used. It was all about something to do with the previous presidency with Biden, where Ukraine came over and was sort of like participating in talks in Pennsylvania. I think that was the sort of like state that was mentioned. And from that moment on, President Trump, really started a backlash of words, and the end result is that they seem that Ukrainians are not thankful or even have said thank you for all the help so far. Now, I do see from that talk that Zelensky didn't really say thank you for the previous aid, but he did say he said thank you an awful lot of times in the past, and that the questions that were being raised were more about the fighting and the deaths and the cities being leveled and all of this sort of stuff. Rather little time really to say thank you, by the way, for all the help so far. And I have to say, how many times do you have to say thank you? It's like, but what I will say about it is it did seem very antagonistical, I think is the word. A very sticky and difficult situation. If that is how peace plans go, my God. Because this is supposed to be sort of like a little bit transparent, although, to be quite honest, you're only seeing a brief talk, and then you go away and you have the peace talks, then you come back and it's all the shaking hands and stuff. If that's how things are around the table, I wouldn't want to deal with Trump, to be quite honest. He's a man who gets things done, but I don't think he does it in the right way. I will say that he's a strong leader. He is. I mean, he is. You can tell straight away that he's just whole hearts, 100 miles an hour, going forward to do what is right for his country, and he'll step in if he needs to for the rest of the world. It's more about him and more about his country, and I don't see that in our Prime Minister at all. He seems to be a bit like a wet lettuce leaf, really, if you could call it that. But I will say it was not nice to watch Friday. It was an awful day, to be quite honest, Friday, because of something else that happened as well. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But we all want this war to end, but we all also want it to be agreeable. And if that was not agreeable at all, you know what I mean? And I think there was a lot of finger pointing. Do you know what? I've mentioned that word before, finger pointing. Sometimes you don't want to finger point. You just want to generalize, not say anybody is to blame, and move on, and then talk about what we're here for. And they were there for a ceasefire. That's all it was about. It was about signing an agreement and a ceasefire, and it turned into what you did in the previous presidency. And that's again, a shift on what the talks were about. But I've said enough about it. I'm not hugely political. You know that I want the war to end. You know I want the war to end with peace, and I want the peace to be agreeable between parties. And I don't want to hear the nonsense that I'm hearing. You know, the false reports, the who started what. I will always look at it that if you move tanks and things across the border, you're antagonizing or starting something. I also don't like to hear the words World War III. So less of that, please, and let's have the lesser problems like heat problems and money problems back, please, because I don't want to hear any of that stuff. My full stance is I want the war to end peacefully. Okay, so that's where I end that. The rest of the stuff, let's see. Ukrainians have gathered in Belfast to mark the 3rd anniversary of the invasion, and thousands attended a charity walk in Britain. So yes, there's obviously we're in the 4th year, but it was the anniversary, the 3 years gone for the start of the war. As you know, I started my blog around about the same time, which is why we're in year 4. So charity walks, all of that sort of stuff, all positives, absolutely fantastic. Really like that. Rail fares are to rise by 4.6% in England and Wales on Sunday. Yes. And there are campaigners that say why when there is so much emphasis at the moment on getting fuel duty down, and it seems to be working, is the rate going up on rail cards and tickets by this 4.6%. I do feel for people that live on the outskirts of major cities that have to travel in, and it's always rate rises. At the end of the day, we want an efficient rail system, and I think it's getting there a little bit. Obviously there are always the train is going to be late and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, we've had that for years, and I do wish sometimes that we look at the models in other countries and how they become efficient. But I'm not in the position really to talk about it because I don't use the train that much. I'm not travelling very much at the moment, and most of my travelling is walking, to be quite honest. I'm lucky. I'm in that great situation where I don't need to travel that much. So I'm lucky. But for those people, my friends, that have to every day go on a train to get into the city or towns to work, and there is delays and line work going on and all of that sort of stuff, I feel a bit for them. But also remember this, there are roadworks going on. For people that are in cars, we suffer the cone situation of lanes being closed by plastic cones left, right and centre. We've got potholes, as I mentioned. There was that sinkhole that happened in Surrey last week. Potholes are terrible. And I have so many holes in the road when I'm travelling to my place of work on a Wednesday. The damage it must be doing to my car, terrible. But I mean, I travel, quite slowly where I know where they are. I mean, I know where they are on my journey to work, so of course I slow down. But sometimes you've got to go nearly into the middle of the road to go round them, and you have to look at the other cars coming towards you and the cars behind you and hope that they'll slow down with you, and appreciate that it's to tell them that there's a bloody great big pothole there. Yeah, bad. Last thing was the Labour's government minister Annalise Dodds has resigned over the PM's decision to cut aid budget. Yes, during the rest of the week, earlier on in the week, there was a big announcement from the Prime Minister to say that he was cutting aid by a percentage to fund security and military strength over the next 3 years. In other words, he was bringing it forward, which many are saying you have strength by the aid you give, and so that this is the wrong decision. Again, this is a very complex decision that I've got no real right to sort of like talk about in any strength whatsoever. You know, if you wanted me to talk about hard drives and memory and the state of Hollywood films that are being made and the TV and all of that sort of stuff, I could talk at length, right? Talking about how foreign aid works, how tax money is paid towards foreign aid and how it strengthens our resolve, and how the war is happening and how we need to fund that and all of that sort of stuff. I know that we need to. I have no idea where that money comes from, and I have no idea what real problems this is going to cause, other than it's obviously going to cause one. And we've got a minister that's basically turned around and said, I'm resigning over it. So it's a very strong strength of feeling on this. And I just hope that gets resolved as well. I'm big on giving to charities and all that sort of stuff. And whenever there's a hurricane or some sort of weather problem, I'm fully there with, oh my God, I hope we're able to get some food out there, some clothes out there, these poor people. Of course, totally. And of course, when the war is going on, we need aid to them as well. Maybe you guys know more about it and are more like-minded on what it all means. I just know that I want the best for everybody. You know what I mean? And I want help where we can help. But I also think, and this is one I am very strong on, that we've got our own problems. We've got issues. We've got pensioners that are dying every day due to lack of heat or lack of food. We've got families going to food banks. We've got homeless. We've got huge issues. And sometimes we've got to look at ourselves and say, do you know what? We've got to concentrate on us just for a short period of time. We've got to concentrate on us because we're in a bad way. But of course, the rest of the world will look at it and say, hey, you're in a bad way. Have you looked at how beautiful London looks and all of this sort of stuff? And yeah, I can understand it. But then again, there's that old adage, isn't it? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. We can have the most beautiful looking city, but it can have the most biggest problems ever had in the world. So yeah, I mean, okay, there's people that are poor in America. Look at the bloody big White House. What building that is. I mean, it must be one of the most immaculate looking buildings. I mean, that white hasn't yellowed over years, has it? Jesus. I mean, it's the White House. It looks white. You know what I mean? You look at it from that point of view. So yeah, and the last story really is a very sad one, for which I'll give a little bit of a homage to at the end of this blog, and that is rest in peace Gene Hackman, the actor, who died at 95 this week. Date possibly unknown at the moment. The news came out on Friday, so it was the 28th of February. And according to news reports, he could have been dead for days. So we don't know exactly when he died, but it could have been up to anything like 10 days. He lived in a bit of solitude in one of the San Diego type districts in America. Not quite sure quite which one it was. Reading a report, the wife was found plus family dogs at the scene where a maintenance worker found them, and there is speculation that for at least Gene Hackman, the problem could have been a pacemaker fail. Doesn't explain the wife, doesn't explain the dogs. Dogs might have died of malnutrition after 10 days, don't know. Haven't got a clue. All I know is Gene Hackman was one of my favourite actors. Oh my God, I could name so many films where I've watched him and gone, do you know what? Gene Hackman made that film. What a film that was. What a performance, you know. He had one of those faces that could be funny and laughing at one point and could look as stern as a headmaster when you were around about 7 years old. You know, you wouldn't want to face him. You know what I mean? And he had one of those voices that were very, very distinct. I could listen to probably him read out the names of the phone book and I'd be enamored. I'd be intrigued. I'd say, keep talking to me. My God. The guy was great. And he resigned from doing Hollywood a good many years before he died. I think he got sick of Hollywood and its politics and how it was going. But I haven't really looked into that. But he won 2 Oscars for 2 great films. Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood film, brilliant. And The French Connection, fantastic sort of like drug police thriller type thing. I think he played Frankie Boyle. Was it something his name was? It was something Danny Boyle, something like that. I haven't watched it in many years, but I remember when I watched it, I loved it. It was like a very gritty streets of San Francisco type thing. It was all those old sort of like 70s Plymouth cars in America around dirty streets and so forth, you know. And Unforgiven, well, again, I think he made that film a little bit. Clint Eastwood is a fantastic actor, don't get me wrong, and a fantastic director, and did great in that film. But I was enamored whenever Gene Hackman was on the screen. He just took over that scene. He was, I mean, in one scene, he was just basically fixing the roof on an extension or something, and he just took over the scene. It was like, all he was doing was talking and hammering some nails into some wood. And all the time, my eyes were fixated on him. I suppose it's a little bit of worship from me, I suppose, a little bit, because the other actor that was on the screen was equally, I suppose, as magnetic. But no, loved him in that. That was absolutely fantastic. Unforgiven. 2 films I've got in my collection. Many Gene Hackman films I've got. And a sad loss. And one that got me very, very sad on Friday. I didn't want to do anything. But over the weekend, I've watched a lot of Gene Hackman films. In fact, I've watched more films over the last couple of days than I have in the last 2 weeks, and they've all been Gene Hackman films. Which probably just goes to show you that you can sort of like concentrate, and that's a good thing for me, so a positive thing. And that's the end sort of like of the news. And when it comes to me, I'll keep it quite short. It's just been a bit of a mixed week because I've not been feeling very well. My mother's not very well, for definite today. Headaches, aches in her legs, feeling a little bit chilly, even though the sun is out. She's not at that stage at the moment where she wants to go outside with the sun and bathe in it. She still wants to stay in and sit on the sofa and not even watch telly or listen to anything. Which is very sad for me because I don't like walking into a room where there's silence. You know, fills me with dread that I might find my mother on the sofa one day or in bed one day, you know, and something terrible has happened. I think we all know what I'm talking about. It's one of the things that any son or daughter dreads, you know. So I'm just doing the best I can with my mum. I made her a cup of tea before I came in to do the blog. I said that I'd keep popping in and out to see how she is. The only saving grace is the darts are on at the moment, which does sort of like help a little bit because she does like watching the darts. So that's that really. So Monday and Tuesday were a bit of a bust for me. I managed to get a video out. My good friend Denny gave me a game he wanted me to play, which happened to be an update version of Frogger on the VIC-20, and anything on the VIC-20 sort of like brings a smile to my face. And this just happened to be an old game done on old hardware to try and see if you can get it as close to the original as you can using modern coding techniques. No change in the hardware, you know, apart from giving it more RAM, which you could buy. There's nothing changed in the device itself. And to be quite honest, oh wow, it is a great version. I mean, if that had come out in 1981, 82, you'd have been going, oh my God, you know, and you probably would have sold systems based on the type of games that were out. I mean, at the end of the day, 81, 82, we were in the age of Atari VCSs, ColecoVisions, Intellivisions, ZX80s, ZX81s, the start of the Spectrum. So the games were all Lock and Chase or Radar Rat Race or those sorts of games. So, of course, we're in the age of Frogger and Pac-Man. So that would have probably have sold systems, you know. So anyway, if you can have a little look at that, that'd be really nice. And on Wednesday, I just had my normal talk with my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. We have a talk every Wednesday on his channel. We talk about anything and everything. It's not held down by one thing. And we had great laugh. I tried to make it my thing to try and make him laugh as fast as possible. He has some bad weeks, some things that go on, you know, that can get him down. But it's really great to see the man laugh out loud as well over such silly things that I might bring up. They are silly things. They mean nothing. They're just there to make him go, oh my God, did you just say that? Do you really believe what you've just said? No, of course I don't. It's just, you know, like I say, the thing I try and do. And he, of course, does the same to me. You know, some of the things he says about Leeds and the North and so forth. You know, just a fun evening. And we had all of our normal people. Cy Robson, a fantastic guy. Muckman Movies. We have Tony York. We have, you know, lots of familiar faces along with some new ones. And I think they all have a good time. And we tell each other what films we've been watching and some recommendations. And, you know, we talk about the future of cinema, the past of cinema, what's on TV, how we watch stuff. And we even go down the line to adverts that we used to watch in the cinemas. We talked about the old you know, the staff that used to lead you into the seats when you went to the cinema, and the person that used to sell the ice lollies and drinks and sweets in just before the movie starts. You know, a lady with a tray of food that you'd go up and you'd have your Kiora drinks and you know, chocolate covered peanuts and all that sort of stuff, all sold at bloody exaggerated prices, I have to say. But it was great to see that. And we don't have any of that anymore. It's get your stuff at the foyer, walk in with it, I mean, have you ever done it? You've got your popcorn, you got your drink, and they give you your ticket, and you got to walk to the actual, you know, screening, and you're trying to hold your ticket so that you can actually go through the door, and you're there with bloody 2 hands full of stuff, and then they give you your ticket back, and then you got to walk to your seat, and half your drinks being spilt and your popcorn, you might as well have thrown half of it on the floor. That's what those ladies were supposed to sort of like present prevent a little bit. You know, obviously not popcorn. You can't carry a popcorn machine around with you. But yeah, so we have all those sort of talks. It's absolutely brilliant, and so really that sort of like ends my week really on why it's been a bit mixed. There's been nothing really adverse going on. I've got a few problems recording my game at the moment, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Ever since I set up the sound to record Frogger, I've had echo. I must have turned some monitoring on. I can't see where it is at the moment. But what I've decided to do, I by the way, I re-recorded the video because it was bloody atrocious, to be quite honest. I re-recorded the video. It's better. But I'm going to do some testing a little bit later on. And then I'm going to record a little video for my friend Wee Bob Art. But we'll talk a little bit later on at the right stage for that. So that's 30 minutes and we've got the news and me out the way. So that's good, isn't it? I mean, we've done that in 30 minutes. So I'll take a little sip. And we'll do the shout outs, then I might just check on my mum. So I just want to say thank you to all the, you know, for the people that have left a comment and basically have wished me well and asked a question and all of that sort of stuff. This blog wouldn't be the same without this particular section and these people wishing me well. If this wasn't here, then it would just be me talking about my week, which works as a blog because remember, this blog is more a diary and it is for my nephew and nieces, and the rest of it is for you. I do it for you, really. And your questions get me to answer things that my nephew and nieces might not know about me. So this is why I'm so appreciative of this particular section and why, you know, I try to bump up my numbers so I get more questions. And those questions will come from people that haven't probably seen this blog in the other 3 years, and so will be asking me questions that you guys might not have thought of, you know? So it's that sort of thing. So I really do appreciate it, and I just want to read out, these are the people that have left a comment. It does seem shorter than other weeks. Then again, I do know that we're in the middle of some sickness at the moment, people's half terms and holidays, busy lives. They're trying to do their own channels, some of these people, you know. It's hard to sort of like step away and give comments. I do miss them, but I do totally understand them. And so basically I'd never, you know, like feel bad that this section is dropping off a little bit. So the people I need to say thank you to, and like I say, thank you very much to everybody who's watched any of my stuff this week and so forth. They are Carl Todd, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Steve's Gaming, Martroid, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, and Denny. Like I say, it does seem like a shorter list. But, you know, my friends out there, they all wish me well. There might be something that they can't think of a question. Maybe they don't like to just leave a little answer just to say, hey, you know, we appreciate you being around. Thanks very much. Bye. It's like, that's a nothing thing. But I look at it like this. If they do that, I read it out. If I do read it out, they might get their channel out to, you know, the name of their channel out there, and they might get more subscribers and likes. I don't know. I'm very big on collaboration. I'm very big on promoting people. I think that anybody that does a channel, and I do mean anybody that does a channel, good for you. You know what I mean? It take that leap from thinking about it to actually doing it is a massive one. I mean, if we're talking about hopscotch, you know, you used to play as a kid, right? That leap would be like crossing the between England and France. You know what I mean? It really is. You have to really get some gumption into you and go, I'm going to do this. But once you do it and the nerves are out the way, it becomes very therapeutic. And from my point of view, just talking to a camera is like talking to a psychiatrist in some ways. In fact, actually, I could call my camera Frasier, couldn't I? Hey, Frasier, how's Niles? No, but you understand it's venting to nothing, but venting nevertheless. And the answers come back to me a week later, which is really quite nice. Gives you something to look forward to, doesn't it? So that's the shout outs out of the way. So we're going to be heading into the area of reading out some of the comments. I'm just going to check on my mother now. And then I'll be straight back to read them out. So thanks very much for giving me the time to actually do that. And if I haven't said so already, thank you so much already for those people that have left something for me. Everybody needs to feel wanted and needed. I'll continuously think that till the day I die. So, won't be long, back in a mo. And I'm back, and basically let's get cracking, shall we? With the comments that have come this week. And I've got the writing a little bit larger. Got different glasses on. Same make, actually, as my blue ones. These are brown. But, hopefully that might be better because the arms have not been used, and so they're quite sturdy on my face. They won't be all sort of like different angles, which happened with my glasses over time. But the first one is from my mate Denny. Yeah, my mate Denny. We were supposed to have a chat this week, but that didn't happen. Same with my mate Mainmeister. He said he was going to call me Monday. But hey, like I say, people have got things going on in their lives. So let's read and see what's going on in my friend's Denny's life at the moment. He's got, hiya mate. Wow, that's me done for my week off. Gone so fast, but it's allowed me to fully recover from that sickness bug, though I now have a sore throat. It is what it is. I've literally chilled out all week, played a couple of games, watched a bit of TV, watched a few films, done a few jobs, mainly clearing the attic again. To be honest, just what I needed after the last couple of months. I'm financially struggling currently due to circumstances. Again, it is what it is, but I'm unable to order all those wonderful releases for the next 2 months from Arrow and 88 Films, namely American Pie 2, The Andromeda Strain, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X. All of them are on 4K. Luckily, I have enough to cover the Doctor Who box set, courtesy of my folks, till I'm flush again, which shouldn't be too long. Matey, don't suffer. If you need anything, just let me know. I'm not exactly like incredibly flush with anything, but if it's just for a short period of time and stuff, I'm here for you, and some of these things they sell out and you can't get them, and you just think to yourself, bloody hell. Always happens at the worst times, you know what I mean? You could be flush all those other months, and then all of a sudden you hit. And I must admit, I've got my MOT this month. I've got my comic bill that I pay every 3 months to pay this month. And obviously, we're in a good period of time at the moment in the fact that the council tax doesn't start until the end of the month. You have a 1 month saving grace with the tax on the house. So, that helps a little bit. But I've got garden stuff to think about. Oh, there's all sorts. It's always bills. But I always tend to find I find a way, and you will as well. But anyway, talking of releases, just as I said, all the Blake 7 boxes have been done already. No way could they restore 13 episodes, do new special effects, and put together extras in the time the last box set was out. Anyone who thinks otherwise, have a word with yourself. I don't think anybody thought differently, but there was always going to be speculation because it's a series that is beloved, but it's not in the scale of the BBC's other major science fiction show, Doctor Who. And so therefore you have to think about the numbers. I think that they've brought out this next one based on the fact that they want to continue the gracious moving forward of the first one, which was at the top of the Amazon best-selling chart for a couple of weeks when it came out. So, you know, a Blu-ray box set of that expense coming out is absolutely fantastic for a show that doesn't have quite the following. And I say that cautiously because I love Blake 7. I think it's a great show. But we all know that it was in the shadow of Doctor Who. And there are a lot of people that go to conventions that dress up as people from Blake 7. It's not like it doesn't have its followers. So absolutely fantastic. One I've already pre-ordered. I knew of it. It came up on my alerts. You bought the first one. Do you want to know about the second one? Bang. Instant pre-order. Didn't need to know about that. Unlike what you've just mentioned, the Andromeda strain, which I didn't know about. So after this, I'll be seeing if I can put a pre-order in for that. So that's great. This week, you continue. I watched A Quiet Place Day 1. Didn't expect much and suspected it to be packed with DEI references. You'll know that Denny mentions DEI an awful lot, and quite rightly. You know, we've all got our own opinions, and I myself feel an actor should be in a role because of the strength of the acting, not a tick box that shows that you have to have equality and diversity in everything that you do. Yes, you do, but not to the extent that this is and all of that. So to my complete surprise, he says, it turned out it was none of that. And for me, the best out of the 3 films. Also watched Slingshot. That's something that I sort of like promoted to him, though I struggled to get through that one, even for a sci-fi film. That's a shame. I thought that would be one that he'd embrace. You can't win them all. I don't know why he struggled. I found that to be pretty good. It covers an awful lot of ground in regards to paranoia, solitude, all of that sort of stuff. I liked it. Then again, hey, it can't be for everybody. I liked it enough that I bought it. So there we go. I did watch your choice for our next video together after the second part of the Twilight Zone 1. Obviously not going to spoil it, but I know it's something everyone will love. Such a tease, ain't I? Yes, we had a chat. We were talking about what we were going to do after finishing off the Twilight Zone season 1, because we got 3/4 of the way through it, and it was then 4 hours. And I said I'd like to do this. In fact, I chose this next specific one. And he's gone away, had a thought, watched the first episode, and thinks it now. Yes, it's the right thing to talk about. So, ain't a tease, am I? You could say on that one. So, watch this space. Great to hear the news. They are resurrecting Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Time Tunnel, and Land of the Giants. So my question this week is, how do you feel about the news of this? And what are your thoughts about what direction they should go? For example, played serious or the old formula, the Monster of the Week show? Pass on my best to your mother and chat soon. Yeah, I hope you do. But that's when you can, matey. But in regards to bringing back old shows and all of that sort of stuff, if done right, if done correctly, got no problem with it. Never have. It's always nice to try and bring something back for a new modern audience. But it's what modern audience they're aiming it at, and what bits they're keeping and what bits they're throwing away for the modern audience that is the fine line on whether I feel good or bad about something. So in regards to Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, fantastic. We've had lots of things that we've had at the bottom of the sea. You know, we've had Sea Quest and all sorts of stuff. I mean, we've loved, you know, Captain Nemo and all of that sort of stuff. And we've even had a modern version of Captain Nemo done recently. And again, it had full of this DEI, as you talk about, in that. And of course, we as the British did not come across very well in that film at all, as possibly the oppressors. But history has shown that we were quite like that back then. So, you know, I watched it and got some enjoyment out of it. I got to the end of it, although it was a struggle towards the end. I won't say. I think the beginning was great. The middle padded slightly, and the end a struggle to get to, but it was still entertaining TV for me. Time Tunnel. Well, the problem I have with Time Tunnel, even though it's one of those shows I love, I've even got the Blu-ray behind me, is that it really ran out of steam. Where do you go with this? You've got two people stuck in time trying to get back. Bit like Quantum Leap there, a much later show, I have to say. Reenacting what, you know, things in history, but things in history that wouldn't have been in the books, you know, in the history books. So they're sort of like side things while the main story of what was going on in those times continues. Something like the gunpowder plot. If they went back in time and they went to that particular point, we know that would be going on, but the story would be more about something that was sidelined by one of the characters. You know, you'd recognize the name and what was going on in their family life and all of that sort of stuff, while the plot needed to continue, and it needs in history for it to happen regardless of what we feel about it. So yeah, you know, I mean, like, you know, it's not going to be something like Stopping Hitler or anything like that. So the time tunnel could work, although time travel, as you know, in our favorite show, is not doing well at the moment. So it could work quite well. Land of the Giants, well, it did sort of like spawn Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and a lot of other stuff. It could work. I found Land of the Giants very entertaining, but again, it ran out of steam towards the end. It was amazing that it was all set really in a sort of a crime scene. The first one, there was a burglary or house thing going on, and they were in the garden or in the house. The special effects at the time were, I think, quite good. Some people look at them and laugh at them. I think if you were back there and you were watching that, those would have looked spectacular. They were very expensive shows to make, I know that. So, Monster of the Week, yeah, I consider that Monster of the Week more in regards to Lost in Space than I would, say, Time Tunnel or even Land of the Giants, because the Monster of the Week might have been an ant or a butterfly or something. You know, nothing more than that. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea could possibly be Monster of the Week fodder, I have to say. But the special effects, you know, are just going to be, you know, great. You might as well just say that's a given. So it's all going to be down to the story and how the stories are written. And if done well, I'm all for it. 3 great shows. Irwin Allen, absolute genius. He did a lot of disaster films after he made those TV series. And, you know, if you've got anything like the passion that Irwin Allen had for those productions, if you've got a head executive producer that has a passion for bringing something like that back without their own agenda, great. I'm all for it. That's all I can say about that, matey. I hope you agree with me, but course, we'd have to have a sort of like deliberation on that, wouldn't we? And so with that, I'm going to say salute. Anything you need, matey, just let me know. Something there that you think you might miss, just tell me. I do not want you to miss what you want, if you see what I mean. So if I can help, great, not a problem. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, salute to my friend. And we move to Carl Todd. Oh, it's quite long, this one, so I'm going to have to take a swig. And Carl has basically said, hi, Del. I didn't get around to comment last week since I went away on a short break with family and friends. It was a mixture of sightseeing and snorkeling. I didn't see any sharks this time. Bloody hell. But I did see a moray eel, lionfish, pufferfish, clownfish, etc. Bloody hell, matey. The only fish I see like that is when I'm playing Subnautica, or if I'm watching Robert from Robert's Gaming playing a Subnautica. My God, we've got pufferfish in there. We tend to find we eat them or turn them into water for us to drink on an alien planet. So absolutely marvellous. I tell you what, you sound like you have a wonderful life. My God. Anyway, I hope that both you and your mum are okay. When you showed the trailer of Awakenings, right, and talked about it a little, it made me think about my own mum. Before she passed away, she was very sick, and she would have periods where she would be comatose. At that time, she needed constant care, so she was in a care home. It was very distressing, not knowing what her conditions would be on my daily visit to see her. Some days she would be chatting like normal, and the next day she would be totally unresponsive. Therefore, I fully understand and appreciate your worries about your mum after going through similar things. Yes, Awakenings, what a film. And yeah, slightly different situation, but yeah. My granddad was in a home for 3 years before, two and a bit years before he died. He died at 92, about 3, 4, 5 years now. Yeah, round COVID. It was he actually died the day after he took his COVID injection. He was in a nursing home, and as you know, nursing homes were rife for this horrible pandemic to have an effect. And I do feel sometimes that if it had been in his own home, that wouldn't have happened. He had less people turning up. We went to see him every Sunday at his home. And we went to see him every Sunday at the nursing home. But there's all the people, the residents, isn't there? And there's the nurses, and they all have to go home. The nurses aren't residential to that nursing home themselves. And of course, therefore, he had more foot traffic of people that were living in the real world than they were when he was living in his own house. So I do think sometimes with resentment at that. But I do know that he was in good hands. They fed him his meals every day. They cleaned him. They tried to get him out of his bed and walking, getting him exercise, talking to him, keeping him company. So those good things, I've got to look at it and be thankful for them. But yeah, thanks for the memory on that. Yeah. So you continue. I enjoyed the Captain America movie. I think that a lot of the criticism was unfounded. It was a troubled shoot, and I think that every trailer had scenes that weren't in the film, so there was a lot of late changes. But I think they did a good job of editing it to make it fit together. It wasn't anywhere near the best Marvel film, but it was no way the worst either. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think a lot of the general audience didn't know that the Falcon was Captain America in the comics, and there was a lack of understanding of vibranium absorbing energy. Yes, a film is sometimes difficult and a miniseries easier to explain things because you take the information in at a much slower rate. A film can be contradicted by the fact that, that film was too long, or it was too short, or bloody hell, my arse ached because I couldn't wait for the film to end. Whatever your condition, you need to go into a film in the best of energies. If you've got a pain in the ass before you even walk in, you ain't going to like the film, are you? Because you're going to be uncomfortable, bum itch or whatever it is, just as a laugh I'm making of this. But you understand where I'm coming from. So it can put you in a bad mood before you even watch something. A Marvel film has its audience. It wants people to be foot traffic just off of the street, but it also wants to appease all those people that read the comics for the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. The Falcon was Captain America for a whole 18 months in the comics. Just in the sort of a similar way that our Captain America in the film went away, Falcon took the mantle of Captain America, and it was under the blessing of Steve Rogers. This is exactly what's happened here. But we also know that it didn't work and it reverted back. Now, what Marvel are trying to do here might be not that. They might be going in a bit of a different direction. But we do know that there is going to be something called the New Avengers. And when we get to that, it won't be the old regime. It will be the new regime. You might have even a new Spider-Man in the Avengers, which, again, is something that has been done in the comics. It won't be I always look at these movies, as the early ones are highly regarded and the later ones not so much. And for me, I look at my comic collection and I get more enjoyment reading the first 20 years, the 60s and 70s for me, of comics. And I find that I'm alienated slightly when I'm reading anything from the 90s, 2000s and on. The storytelling changed. And that's because children changed. They couldn't understand why Spider-Man is swinging around and that nobody has got mobile phones with cameras taking pictures of all of this. And the fact that he's got nothing in his headpiece he hasn't even got an earpiece in, and he's swinging about. What the hell's all that about? And I totally get it. It's just that, to me, it was all about the story. And the stories are a little bit fantastical, if you see what I mean, at the moment. There's a story going on in Spider-Man right now, which I'm looking forward to reading, don't get me wrong. It'll be, I've just paid my comic bill, so it'll be arriving shortly, where Spider-Man is in the fight of his life and he's been given 9 lives. And once those 9 lives are gone, he's dead. And apparently, in the comics, he's used 4 of them already, and he's got something like 6 battles to go. So he's in a bit of a dilemma, isn't he, at the moment? He's got to win certain battles where he doesn't lose a life. Otherwise, he's going to run out before the end of all of these battles, because it was supposed to be 9 lives, 9 battles. So yeah, a dilemma. You can see a dilemma. But the dilemma for me back then was, how is he going to fight this villain when he's got the flu at the moment? That was the dilemma what I was reading. This dilemma is, he's perfectly healthy, but he's only been given a dilemma that he's got 9 battles and 9 lives to do it in. It was all about the humanness about Spider-Man that made me want to read it. So, yeah, it has changed. But anyway, I'm talking too much here. Some questions you've got for me. You've mentioned fishing in the past. I wonder if you've had an aquarium or any form of fish tank. When I had my home in Manchester, I had a little fish tank. And that's where I learnt a little bit. My God, did I learn. It was all about filtration and little motors with plastic tubes coming out, and the type of fish that you're going to have, and heaters to keep the water at certain temperatures, and putting chemicals in to keep what is it? The what level? A P something level? I forgot what it is now. Anyway, the level at a certain pH level. all of that sort of stuff. And I used to love things like angelfish or Siamese fighting fish, all of that sort of stuff. So I didn't want the clear water stuff. So it was a little bit, I should have gone down that route because I think that's probably easier to maintain. So my fish lived a goodish life, but they didn't last that long. I mean, I remember I bought a Siamese fighting fish and it lasted 4 months. Don't know what it is. Maybe I overfed it. Maybe I didn't clean the water enough. Maybe I didn't have the oxidization enough. I don't know. But other fish, little light neon fish, they lasted ages. Don't know. Never did work it out. And then you get things like fish rot that you have to work on and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, I loved it. Didn't have one at home because, as you can see, I live now, my 3-bedroom house when I moved back home turned into this one room. So I got nowhere to put one. I don't know whether my parents at the time, my mum and my father, would have wanted it. I know I gave the aquarium to my next door neighbour and said, look, here you are, free aquarium for you. We can't take it home. It's nowhere to put it. It went to a 12-year-old lad, next door neighbour. I hope he got great fun out of it. Maybe he sold it on eBay the next day. I have no idea. But yeah, I miss those days. It's very, very therapeutic. I remember not having the telly on sometimes when I got home, and all I could hear was the bubbles coming out of the motor, for the keeping the water filtrated. Very therapeutic. It's like listening to rain, a silent room, and all you can hear is the rain landing outside. It's very therapeutic. Yeah, did like that. That was great. So yes, I did have a fish tank. Thank you very much for that memory as well. Yeah, great. And then it says, have you ever been snorkeling or diving? To be quite honest, no. Unless you're talking about diving at the swimming pool, where we all had to learn to dive at school, but not snorkeling from going on holiday, having snorkels and the mouthpiece. I had them as we bought them and took them on holiday with us, but I never used them when I went to the beach. We're talking about when I was like 11, 12. I always remember that you had to put the water slightly in the lenses so it didn't fog up, all of that sort of stuff. So I must have done a little bit, but it's not a memory that really holds much water for me. Ha ha! Needed to get that pun in. My fiance at the time, Shalise Chalker, who I mentioned last week, who died. She died actually snorkeling. She was actually in Bangkok, and based on her religion, she had a hole in the heart and had a heart attack underwater. And based on her religion, they bury their dead within 24 hours. So I couldn't even go out to the funeral. I went out there months later and met the family. And they were lovely people. But yeah, that saddened me an awful lot. It doesn't make me not want to go snorkeling or diving, although I'm very conscious of my body as well. I tend to find that I'm not, even now at my age, happy with the way I look or happy about the skin I live in. And you'd think I would be. You'd think I'd got to the point where people could laugh at me as much as they want. Don't listen to it. You'll be okay. I'm still very conscious of it. And that might be the scars of bullying through the years, that I'm very still conscious of it. So, of course, I don't go swimming that much because I'm still self-conscious of how I look and how others perceive me. So, again, something that I need to work on, isn't it? I mean, I shouldn't be in that situation at my age. What am I going to be like in a nursing home when someone's got to wipe my ass? I mean, Am I going to really think about how fat or big I am then? You know, at some point I've got to get over this. Time's ticking. So you then say, take care, mate. No, thank you so much. P.S. I didn't comment, but I'm enjoying your playthrough on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Well, that's very nice. Thank you so much. No need to comment. To be quite honest, I'm doing it. I'll tell you why I'm doing it. It's actually encouragement from Steve's Gaming. I don't think he'd mind me mentioning it. I was going to buy it anyway, but it was going to be one of those games that I played by myself, you know. Wasn't going to record anything. And he said, I'd really like to know how you play your role-playing games. I think it'd be good to know whether you're the sort of person that goes out and kills everybody, or whether you're the sort of person that's helpful, sort of like a bit like a Dick Turpin type of person, or whatever. And I think people would enjoy watching it because it can be very therapeutic to do so. And it was his encouragement that made me bring it out. The problem I've got is that I can't play games for any length of time without my eyes going double vision and stuff. And I'm having a few technical difficulties with the sound, but I think I've got it sorted out now. Last night there was still echo, but I've got a funny feeling I know what it is now. It's one of the monitors that I've got on, which means it's getting the echo. It's getting the sound through twice, once from the computer itself and once from a standalone mic. So yeah, I will get that sorted, and there will be more to follow. I'm really enjoying it now. I'm starting to get into a number of side quests and stories that make me want to progress further. I need to be able to live in this land without being beaten up, branded, killed, all that sort of stuff. It's really quite good, and it's a beautiful game. My God, what a beautiful game it is. But anyway, again, talking an awful lot. I'll say salute to you, Carl. So glad you had your holiday. So glad you had fun. Thank you so much for the questions. And the next one we've got is Ian Hill, the Ramblings, my mate on a Wednesday. Thank you very much. Well, he's my mate all the time, not just a Wednesday, but here we go. Hi, Delboy. Hope you and your mother are okay. Excellent blog as always, and our live chat was as always so enjoyable. I learnt about such strange game titles such as Grand Theft Hamlet. I hope that was smoking. LOL. Yeah, our friend Muckman Movies said that there was a film called Grand Theft Hamlet, which was about a couple of people that loved the game Grand Theft Auto and decided to try and do a Hamlet production within the game during COVID. What an unusual film. And yeah, I'm going to look that one up. I hadn't heard of it. So there we go. Grand Theft Hamlet. Who knew? I will be honest today, which is Friday, I've not felt right. Things haven't felt right. Not sure why. My brain has felt foggy. It's taken me longer to process things, and my body has felt tired. I've not done a video today. I couldn't raise the enthusiasm to do one. I had one in mind too. I hope in the next few days I might do it. However, I've got my Doctor Who and X-Files reviews to do, maybe tomorrow. I will feel so much better than today. I certainly won't be watching The Brutalist again. I think now that film is not as good as the critics are saying. It's far too long and bleak. And if you do get to the end, you start to question why the critics have loved it. Another tale of the immigrants and the American dream. It is trying to be current and political. Maybe that might be a good for a rant disguised as a chat. And this is where, Ian and I will disagree a little bit. I believe you do need to have these types of films. You need films like Schindler's List. You need films like The Brutalist. They're not supposed to be happy films. You're supposed to realise what the narrative is all about. And it is a long film, but that's where I think that probably it's not great for a cinema release, although that's where it is. I watched it as a streaming thing. I watched it in one go, which was very difficult for me because it's 3.5 hours long. It is long. but I got a lot out of it, if you see what I mean. Stuff that I hadn't really pondered or thought about. So for me, I got something out of it, and if you don't get something out of it, then obviously it's like the most depressing film you'll ever watch, and that's not going to be good, especially if you're in a depressed state in the first place. So, two sides of the coin, and neither of us are right. That's how I look at it. I would say you need to go in there with an open mind, but on the understanding and knowing that it is not a happy film. And from that point of view, you might get it. If you not know anything about it and you watch it, you'll be going, "Oh my god! Can you throw any more? Can you throw anything else at this poor guy? You know, I mean, can you throw the kitchen sink in there as well, please? You know, because it is a lot like that. And to be quite honest, it can be a little bit overbearing in places. Even I will agree with that. So yeah. So you continue. I've just watched The Charge of the Light Brigade, 1968, which takes place in the Crimea War of 1853-1856, and is from the Battle of Balaclava, 1854. It led to reforms of the army. The Duke of Wellington was dead, and the incompetent Lord Cardigan was hopeless. This resulted in many more deaths than there should have been. The upper class in the army were clearly a problem, and reform was needed. Also, it's worth remembering the nursing reforms of Florence Nightingale and the Mary Seacole, a pioneering black woman, which helped create the nursing profession. The film had some excellent satire and clever animation in the credits about the British Empire. So you can see what I mean. So we're talking here about another bleak outlook. It's The Charge of the Light Brigade, the Crimea War, deaths, how the army treated people, how the nurses were back in that time, the aristocracy and upper class clearly being a problem. You'd think to yourself, well, what's this? This is bleak, 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 bleak. But you got something out of it. Maybe it's because it's historical fact. The other one is a story from a perspective of an immigrant. I don't know. I know that I think I've seen The Charge of the Light Brigade 1968, but not sure. I got a lot of war films I watched because I watched it with my dad, but not every single one of them have I got on DVD or Blu-ray. You know, I've got A Bridge Too Far and all of that sort of stuff. Waterloo, a number of films, but not all of them. And I have to turn around and say I am not fully au fait with the Crimea War, but I do understand Florence Nightingale. So, and I do understand as well our occupation of, say, India and so forth, and how we treated people in the army, and how most of the officers that were of any power were all aristocrats and people of money compared to the poor old normal Tommy soldier. So yeah, I mean, I get great delight watching those films, and I'm learning something again, while also being entertained. So yeah, I do like those. But anyway, we continue because I don't want to say one person is better than the other about in regards to the two types of films. Charge of the Light Brigade sounds very much like a film we ought to watch. Please take it as read. Ian knows his stuff. If he says a film is good, it's good, right? If it's not for you, fair enough. Every film is not for everybody. So there we are. So my question this week is, there any jobs and professions like the emergency services, police, doctors and nurses that should get more recognition? All the best. Have a reet grand time. Now, my answer to that is working in the government, right? Should any of these professions get more recognition? Every single one of them. Now, the police are always in the news. They're always in the news for the bad things, never for the good things, I tend to find. We've got lots of TV shows on at the moment, you know, like 24 Hours in an A&A clinic and all of this sort of stuff. And I do watch them and I think to myself, wow, you know. What you have to understand about it is that they live under a rule set that I wouldn't say is they should follow. I mean, I work for the government. I work in the assets department of the MOJ. Do I agree with my government that's in at the moment? No. Do I walk a tightrope there these are my bosses, right? These are my bosses. Should I be bad mouthing them? But at the end of the day, I can't. You can't go down the line of bigging them all up when you know that some things are in the wrong and you don't agree with. Like I say, I've worked for many places. I've worked for Lloyd's Bank. I've worked for part of the primary care trust in computers. I've worked in the teaching profession as a facilitator, and you know, so I have to look at these things and go, every single one of them had their bad points. So should there be more recognition for doctors and nurses and the emergency service, the fire brigade, say? That's not mentioned there, but the fire brigade, absolutely. These people risk their lives every day, or try and save lives every day, or try and maintain peace every day, under circumstances which are terrible. Do they get a lot of money for it? Some do, some don't. Is there recognition for the work that they do? Monetary wise, yeah, that's what they get. Paid wage at the end of the week or the end of the month. That's it. They all have had some effect on our lives, or will have on our lives. So absolutely, there should be more recognition. I mean, God, I think even McDonald's does more recognition than the National Health Service. I mean, how many McDonald's have you been in that you've seen this person's got has got 5-star award for cooking fries for us at the back there for our Happy Meals? I mean, their face is there, 5 stars underneath it, and you're going, who the hell's that all about? You walk into a hospital, no pictures up of anybody, no recognition for anything, no badges to say, hey, look, I'm a top star nurse this month. None of that sort of stuff. And the same with the police, same with the fire brigade and everything else. So yeah, of course I do. Hope that's a good enough answer for you though, matey. I must admit, I'm not very good with my words possibly with that, but I think there's so many of my friends that do bang up jobs and they get nothing for it. I hope I do a bang up job. I know that I felt the most proud being a manager at the probation service. I felt I was doing something, and I felt the people that I was doing the work for respected me. Don't feel that now where I'm at the moment. Maybe that's the numbers. I haven't got a clue. But I do think I felt more isolated and less appreciated the last 4 years than I did the 5 years previous to that. Yeah, very much so. So salute, my friend. Thank you very much, Ian. And do please go and watch his channel. Absolutely fantastic. You'll hear about some of the stuff he does a little bit later on. So we move on to Steve's gaming. My mate Steve, who I have to give my salute to. You bastard. You know, you little shit. Your channel's just too good, you shit. That's just my friend Steve, because he knows me very well and he knows I mean nothing from it. But anyway, here we go. I'm not expecting anything bright, in the way of happy from Steve. I know that he's got a lot of things going on at the moment. But let's read. I might be totally wrong here. It's the first time me reading it, just like you. So it says, "Hi Del, excellent blog again. I hope your week was better than mine. Mine was terrible." Yeah, see, this is where I'm going. And then we go and lose Gene Hackman. What a shame. And his wife too. It's so very sad, and what a talent he was. He'll really be missed. Now I feel the urge to rant. Here we go. I knew that. I know you have a PS5. So maybe ignore this. But in my opinion, Sony are utter bastards. And their customer care is non-existent. My stepdad has had a PS4. Mine's down there. And my PS3 is just here, by the way. For something like 10 years. And the hard drive on it died the other day. I found him a replacement and fitted it, but when he was asked to log in, he couldn't remember his password. Or the email address it was linked to. Understandable, 10 years, yeah? So I have gone through Sony's live chat several times, hoping they would help. The first time, they said they couldn't help, as it wasn't my machine. Yeah, that's understandable. You only want to talk to the account holder. Boot on the other foot a little bit here. If this was not your machine and somebody was trying to act on your behalf, does Sony know that this person is acting on your behalf? It's not like the NHS where you have a letter that says, when this person phones, they are acting on your behalf and therefore they're like the ambassador of your estate. You understand where I'm coming from. But saying that we're talking about a games console here, for fuck's sake. We're not talking about your bloody house up for sale because you've turned senile or something. Right, so with that being said, where do we get to? The first time they said they couldn't help us, it wasn't my machine. He is 70 for flipping sake. I really have got to try and keep this PG if I can. He can't use live chat and doesn't have a PC. No, he's 70. I mean, remember I mentioned about my mother. It's getting harder and harder to get a pension because she now has to go in with a card and remember a PIN number and all of this sort of stuff. It's not geared towards old age pensioners or people of a certain age. So it wasn't my machine. He is 70. He can't use live chat and doesn't have a PC. My God. So I went to his house with my laptop and tried again. They wanted his online name, which we had, and the PS4 serial number, which we gave them. But then they wanted the order number for the last thing he bought online, which is sent to you via email. Yes, it is. Yeah. The whole effing reason we contacted them was because we don't have his email address or the password. Yeah. Difficult one, isn't it? I have to look at it like this. 10 years ago, how many email addresses would you have? Now, I'm going to look at that the wrong way because it will look like I'm siding, and I'm not siding at all here. It's just I have worked in Lloyd's and security, and I do recognise that one of the security questions that you can have is something recent that's happened on the account, which is standard practice. I'll tell you what, though, the one thing I will say about everything I've read here, this opens up the whole thing about ageism in gaming and how as you get older, the more it's harder for you to sort of like tell the company who you are. Do you know what I mean? We as people in our age log on to machines all the time. We're much more fluent in having password protectors, authenticators, areas that we store our email accounts in, all of that sort of stuff. If you don't use it every day and you only opened up an email account just for you to play on a games console, 10 years down the line, are you going to remember? No, you're not. It's quite absolutely. I'll tell you what, this is quite understandable. So it says here, the whole effing reason we contacted them was because we don't have their email address or password. But because we couldn't give them his last order number, they refused to help. I bought him a 1-year PlayStation Plus subscription for Christmas, and he's had 2 months out of it, and it'll be wasted now. On top of that, he's phoned me and said he's stopping gaming as he doesn't want to start all his games from scratch with a new account. So he's annoyed. I'm annoyed because I couldn't help him. I'm furious at Sony for being utter scumbags and ending his gaming. What a vile company. I'm so glad I sold my PS5 now. Anyway, rant over. So, yeah, I can understand your blood boiling and all of that sort of stuff. Scumbag company, they're protecting the interests, but they're protecting the interests to the point where they can't help you. That should never happen. That should never happen. Sony and many other companies that are out there need to start looking at themselves and start going, is there something that we can do for age range this to this, age range this to this, age range this to this? Because you're quite right. If you were to ask me what email accounts I was using 10 years ago, so that would make it 2015, I couldn't tell you which ones were made in that year to the ones that I'm using in 2025. I'd have to actually go into the account to see when I open that up. So it's very, very difficult, isn't it? And people of like I say, of a certain age are not going to have mobile phones. Probably don't even use phones at all. They've still got landlines. But they could have a system where you have the right to give the control of the account to your son or daughter if you need to, because you're getting older and you don't use the technology that we all do. So I'd love it if I could actually say, hey, nephew, I've got a PS5 over here. Can I give you the power to phone up on my behalf, please, in case something goes wrong? Because I'm starting to use my computer less, and I want you, therefore, to have the power to act on my behalf if anything goes wrong. Much like the NHS has that. Yeah, that's for definite. I would say that you're quite right to feel furious about it. I will say that the only caveat in it is they're protecting the interests. But they're protecting the interests to the point where you lose out. That should never happen. There should be a solution to this. Maybe there should be the ability to prove that you are who you are, acting on behalf of your father, by giving some other personal information, such as the middle name of your father, the house number he lives at, the landline number, something like that. Okay. But also, you prove by receipt the PlayStation Plus subscription, because surely that is something that's new on the account. Does it have to be a game? Can it not be, only 2 months ago I paid for a PS Plus membership on something and it was okayed on that system by your father, so they had to put in a code to get that? Can that code not be read out by this person? If he can't get into the account, how can he know what the code was that activated the PS Plus account? There's got to be a way. Got to be a way. I've worked on customer service desks. I know the pressures they're under. The live chat sounds very much like AI shit, and I call it AI shit because it is, all that GPT chat. There's got to be a way, matey. I agree with you on how furious you are, because it's utter nonsense. You've actually mentioned right at the very beginning that you haven't got the email account, so asking for order numbers that are emailed is absolutely ridiculous. It sounds like an AI question. Do you know what I mean? There should be, if it's AI, it should be able to go to option 4 here, if this question cannot be answered, ask this question. Because the email account is broken. Do you see what I mean? It goes down a flowchart of questions, and when things are no, it breaks off to a yes and goes over here to another box until you get to the point where it says end. You know what I mean? It's a flowchart of logic coding, which I've done no end of in business. Anyway, what a vile company. I'm so glad I sold my PS5. Anyway, rant over. Question time. Question 1. Which kind of scrolling do you find the most annoying in gaming? Push scrolling, flip screen scrolling, or something else? Flip screen scrolling every time. Push scrolling I live with. In fact, Mainmeister mentioned it the other day about Fist 2 using push scrolling. But that flip scrolling, like in Contra, that I think I've seen on the Amstrad, it drives me bonkers, nuts. No, couldn't live with that. Awful. Hate it. So it's quite an easy one to answer. Actually, Mainmeister asked a question, why does Fist 2 use push scrolling? And I was trying to find information about it the other day. I used to know that push scrolling was something that you used because the whole idea of the character is to be in the middle of the screen for the most of it, right? So if you start off at the edges, you have to walk to the middle and then it pushes. But then you're in the dynamic correct position for anything that would come in from the left or right. See what I mean? You had a fighting chance. There was another reason for it, and I think it was to do with memory, how graphics are compressed, and how push scrolling aided with the mapping for bringing in certain blocks of memory for the area that you're bringing in. Because things are not necessarily hard coded. They're block coded. So basically push scrolling aids with that. Personally, I just love like continuously scrolling games. I'm not a fan of push scrolling. I'm definitely not a fan of flip screen scrolling. Scrolling that scrolls left and right smoothly like the Commodore 64 does in a lot of their games, I love. I think that hardware scrolling is brilliant. Like I said, I can only imagine that push scrolling on Fist 2 was used for memory, and the fact that that would be the optimal position for you to be in for anything that might come in on the screen. Question 2, Angel Delight. Did you like it? And if so, what flavour was your favourite? All the best, mate, and give my love to your mum. Angel Delight. We worked at Bird's Packing, which made Bird's custard powder and that. Angel Delight. I think my dad worked in the plant that made that. I think it was a General Foods product. So he did bring it back home. Did we have it? We had it in trifles and all sorts of stuff, Angel Delight. I got sick of it after a while. My dad loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. He was king at making custard, my dad, though. Oh my God, he used to, the custard he made was gorgeous. You wouldn't believe it was out of a packet, you know what I mean? He added things to it to make it taste nice, do you know what I mean? Whether that be sugar or syrup or whatever it was, he just made it. It was gorgeous, right? Didn't taste powdery or anything at all. But I do remember Angel Delight in a packet. I can see the packet now. Can't remember what the flavours were. I remember the colours, pink. It's like blancmange type, pink and all sorts of different colours on it. So I'm not going to be able to answer the flavour bit, but I remember we had a lot of it. Like I say, General Foods, what a factory. And my dad worked in the desserts packing plant for 27 years. Yeah. He didn't work in the coffee plant. The coffee plant, I'll tell you what, that's a dangerous place. It blew up in the 80s. There was little sparks that could be created by particles in the air, and apparently this happened in one of the machines. It was a bit like coal dust, and it ignited and blew the whole wall away. Killed a couple of people, affected everybody at the plant. Everybody was out for several weeks, an investigation, all of that sort of stuff. I think it was the desserts packing people that went to work before the coffee people. Yeah. Anyway, so you end on this, because as I say, I read it out verbatim. Oh, and Sony are covens. Or, I'll tell you what, it rhymes with runts. Yeah, I understand. Matey, I just hope things get better for you. I hope I haven't looked like I've sided with one or the other. I hope I've given a balance on what I think. I think in this particular instance, Sony are in the wrong. Totally. I think it shows up their lack of security, because their security should not be so tight that you can't get a result on identifying who you're speaking to. So they're in the wrong. There you are. Easy as that. I hope things get better for you, matey. We'll speak, I hope, during the week. And salute, my friend. You don't get your site is just too bloody good. It's better than mine, you bastard. You got more subs than me, shitty bastard. Right, there we go. Hope that cheered you up. Doubt it has. Jesus Christ. Martroid, my friend Martroid, he's put, it's funny you should mention Eric Morecambe, Dell. My dear old dad always reminded me of him. The same thick-rimmed glasses and comb overlook. Well, that was my memory via the eyes of a child anyway. Yeah, Eric Morecambe, what memories we've got. How good it is that if we lived in that period of time, how happy our lives were, at least watching a couple of people like Eric and Ernie. Fantastic, matey. I hope you're well. Thank you so much. And sent a little message to you. You'll know the reason why when you read it. Thank you very much. We move on to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, my friend, who's so technically minded. So thoughtful as well in his blogs. Definitely has a great channel. Please go and have a little look there. And he's even the controller of a high scoring sort of like kerfuffle challenge type thing. Definitely worth having a go. I wish I was good enough at games for me to have a bloody score or had the time to do so. But I tell you what, I'd be at the bottom all the time. It'd make me depressed just thinking about it. So here we go. We've got, first, send my warmest regards to your mum. You're doing a fantastic thing looking after her during these difficult times, and she's not in a good place at the moment, matey, but thank you so much for that. I'll pass all the heartwarming thoughts from everybody to this in a little while. In fact, I must make her a cup of tea shortly. We've been going on for quite some time. You cannot, under any circumstances, have peace talks without both sides present. I won't say here what I think of it, but it should be pretty obvious to you knowing how I am. Yes, and it's moved on since then, matey. So this is before all of the kerfuffle that's been going on before that. Personally, and especially financially, I've never been better off, but the world political situation worries me in ways I can't really put into words. Yes, one of the gaming video requests was mine, Balloon Fight. Yeah, sorry, matey. I must admit, I get brain fog. Of course you did. And if I remember rightly, I thumbed up that game. And I actually played it the other day. I actually felt like I wanted to go back to it. Not very good at it still. Still, I'm shit. But that's me needing to practice more. I should have a new car the day after you read this out, and you just confirmed my suspicions, and I have now just been reminded to order an RFID blocker pouch. I do also have one of my contractless cards, but I rarely take them out anyway, usually relying on my phone. Can't be stolen if I'm not carrying them. I'll bring them when I'm expected to spend over £100, so contractless won't work. Yes, contractless. It's funny this. I think I've told this story before. My card has the contractless infrared type symbol on it, but it's disabled. I have to put a pin in to use my card or swipe with the stripe. I had it turned off because I didn't have at the time the ability to block the ability of somebody just to nick my serial number of my card. And I was going to London every week, and I was going up and down escalators all the time, especially around the Victoria line. Anybody who's been on the line knows that that's quite far down. So, yeah, and it's quite a busy line as well. So, yeah, I turned it off, and I don't use my phone. I don't use my watch, any of that. I use my cards. If anybody nicks my card, they can't use the contractless part of it. They do have to have the pin. The pin's in my head. I actually do have an RFID blocker pouch now for my cards, and I do have it for my car. I think you need to be protected. I think it's madness, as I mentioned before, house keys being on car keys, sat navs having home listed, the door key being locked at night with the car key hanging off of it is a no-no. These are all things that we should now be aware of in our regular life. Just like we know other things that we do just naturally, you know, turning the lights off before you go to bed. They should be a regime, really. So, yeah. I'm so glad it's helped you out there, and I'm glad that you're using modern technology to do things contractlessly via your phone and all of that sort of stuff. I just don't like doing it. I don't like Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, all of that sort of stuff. I just don't. Just me though. I'm allowed to have that opinion. No other reason other than I rather the old approach. Be quite honest. I don't think you've mentioned Shalice before. Wow, what a blow. Yeah, you put Charisse. It's Shalice. Shalice Chalker. Yeah. I've mentioned it, I think, to Alan Mainmeister before. I don't really talk about my personal life. I've been engaged a couple of times. Things I don't like to talk about. Which I might do privately in one of my blogs. Or I might actually have the gumption to do it here. I know I've, you know, had a scare, a couple of times in regards to whether I've got a child or not. Yeah, that's a tricky one. But anyway, we'll talk about that maybe another time. Did I hear Alexa or Google going off around 1:49? Yeah, you probably did. I need to turn the sensitivity down on that. YouTube shorts do my head in. I just can't watch them. I know I could work through the awful feeling I get when watching them, but I just don't want to do so. I've just thought about doing some shorts about little computer tips, like clearing the prefetch folder and stuff like that. I still think I might do that, just purely because I'd like to have a little utility belt of tools and tips for particular situations that I don't really want to watch big, huge 25-minute solutions to things, where working through sort of like a certain set of steps might help. So I still might do that. But anyway, you got a question for me. What are your thoughts on 3D printers? Oh, wow. Right, never been asked this one. Would you still get a bamboo printer? No, I like ones made, where you plug them in, not use coconuts to power them. No, I'm only joking. Knowing they make it very awkward to use third-party apps and add-ons with them, or would you avoid them for this reason and find something else? My own thoughts on this might surprise you, but let's hear what you think first. Okay, and then there's a hell of a lot of talk from you and Steve. I might read those out in a minute, but you've asked me the question. Um, I've always wanted a 3D printer. Always wanted one. Just purely from the point that I think that they're fun and look great. And if you think about it, I've always wanted to get into that sort of like little Warhammer painting little soldiers type thing. I've always wanted to be able to do something with Marvel characters. You know, I used to buy those Eagle Moss lead figurine type things. They weren't lead, you know, they were that substitute lead. Those metal figurines that were painted. And I thought that that'd be nice as a hobby to have in my retirement. And 3D printing is one way that I could look at that, because I hear that you can go onto many sites and get these 3D printouts that you put on a thumbstick, put into the actual printer, and basically tell it to print, and you've got a one-coloured sort of like kit, you know, a model of what you want, and then you can go away and paint it by getting those little paints from model stores and stuff, right? But where do I put it? How much does it cost? How does it work? How much is the material? So it put me off a little bit. But that didn't stop me from looking into YouTube an awful lot, you know, back in the day, to work out how they work. They work by filament, don't they? They work by a nozzling system, and they work by heating the different types of materials that you can buy. And I believe that there's several different types that you can buy. And then you've got the flatbed that rises or lowers based on how it's printing. And it can integrate with your PC so that you can use software, 3D modeling software, a bit like 3D Studio, to make your own. When you're buying a commitment of these printers, and I know that they've come down in price, but they're still quite expensive, it's got to be a marriage of software and hardware and usability. So if one of those is a major priority to you and the printer doesn't support it, then you have to wipe it off of your bucket list. What I mean by that is, if you had a printer that was low priced but didn't use the majority of the major software that's out there that these printers use, there's no point in it. You'd learn something from it, but that's about it. So if you buy a high-end printer that only uses its proprietary software, again, it might be something where you turn around and go, no, I am having that, because I want to be able to use whatever software I want to use. I don't want to restrict myself. It's the restrictions that help you choose what you're going to buy. Ease of use comes into it, but it's less for me ease of use, because I can sometimes get around ease of use by just reading up and just practicing. It's all a matter of, this is all a new language to me, so I'm finding it difficult. But if you can break that barrier, if you can watch enough demonstrations, if you can ask the questions, if you've got a support that aids you through this, then that becomes a lesser thing. So for me, it's all about the accessibility, cost, software it uses for definite. So knowing about Bamboo, I believe one of the big problems that they've got is ease of use slightly, and the software they use. I don't know. Steve mentions a little bit later on a particular one called Flash Forge Adventurer, which I've looked at before in the past. Not the one he mentions. I think I looked at the Flash Forge, I think it was a 2 or 3 when I was looking at it, that apparently was an up-and-coming set of printers that their only problem was the filament head, which clogged up, if I remember rightly, on the earlier models. So I would, when it comes to you two talking about it, I would weigh up and then choose the one that fits my criteria. So I'll read out what the others say now. I just want to stick my nose in here, Colin, this is what Steve says, and say, when it comes to 3D printers, my wife has a FlashForge Adventurer 5M Pro. It's a fully enclosed printer and it comes with auto bed leveling, so you never need to faff around with a sheet of paper adjusting the level. Also, it even has a camera built in that you can watch online as it prints, or even get it to make stop motion like animations of the builds. I can fully recommend it. As for Bamboo, it's a make out of void, as what I've read is that the new firmware updates are really dodgy and limit what the user can and can't do, and it forces cloud dependency. For which Colin's come back, yes, I'm fully aware of the trouble with Bamboo Labs printers, but for my purposes, this isn't going to be a problem. The printer I plan on getting also has self-leveling, is fast, and supports AMS, multi-filament printing. I have a good friend who actually has and uses one, and she rates it very highly. She's no slouch on tech either. Yes, it has the issues you mentioned, and I can see why many people should indeed avoid them. But I'm never going to be at a stage where I need to be limited by these issues. I have put a lot of thought into it. Thanks for the advice, though. It's always appreciated. And I think that sort of like sums up what I was just saying. You were saying there are stumbling points that basically might be stumbling points for others, but not necessarily should there be stumbling points for yourself. Re, how it works, the language it uses, the how it goes about printing compared to another model, which, because dumbing down things can be quite good in certain situations, but absolutely useless to you if you try and do something advanced. You've got to have a happy medium. He mentions cloud dependency. I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't know enough about the two machines, the FlashForge and the Bamboo, to have an opinion on that. Variety in the type of materials it uses and the filaments they use, that's a limitation. This is where you have to weigh it up and say, are you going to be happy that you are only allowed to use 3/4 of the materials out there, or do you want the one that actually incorporates them all? Remember, I have this sort of conversation all the time with my head in regards to tellies. Do I want to be limited to the fact that I'll never have Dolby Atmos because the telly doesn't support it, and that I'm then stuck with just HDR? See what I mean? Or do I go for the telly that has it all? It's got Atmos, HDR, etc., etc. You need to weigh it up and know which one is the one that pound to technology works for you. So, do you know what? All I know is you two bastards have got more money than me. I wish I had the money to buy a 3D printer. Just think how lovely my life would be with that printer printing out those little Spider-Man characters and me painting them and doing all sorts of different poses, and all my photography, what my photography would be like with this, painting models and stuff. But have I got 500 quid? Have I? Buggery. I want that telescope as well that I was talking about, that I'm still saving up for. Fat chance of me being able to get to any of that stuff at the moment. Bills, and my mum's health. That's all that's on my mind at the moment. So, yeah. Did I think that my friend Steve would have a 3D printer? No way in my wide world would I have thought that my friend had a 3D printer. Bastard. Didn't tell me half of this stuff, did he? No. Little sod. You wait till I have a word with him. That's the end of the comments, my friends. So we're moving on to what I've watched and all of that sort of stuff. But I'm going to take a cup of tea into my mum, and I'm going to try and fly through these. Obviously, I just don't want things to go on for too long. So if you could just give me a couple of minutes while I go and make my mum a cup of tea, I'll be much obliged. It'll be a flash to you, couple of minutes for me. So it won't be long. Literally seconds, because my mum was making her own cup of tea. I'd taken so long, bless her. So I told her where the biscuits were, because she likes her custard creams, and I'm back. So watched on YouTube is this particular heading, because I've changed the headings a little bit, and we've got my standard ones, This Week in Retro and Techmoan. And this week in Retro, they were covering the titles of Reopening the Black Gate, Artificial Stupidity, and Turn Off Your Computer Before Midnight. They were actually quite good subjects this week. I really like the idea that the Ultima series is coming to the VIC-20, and there's a little project going on, and it's mostly in a working state. That's one that I definitely took a shine to, and went to the website for the developer of what's going on with that, and I'm very excited about that. There was a lot about the Y2K in there. I was massively involved in year 2000 because I worked for the bank at the time. I know exactly what was going on around there. I know exactly how much overtime I was doing around that time. A very complex subject that we won't talk about now. It's been talked to death anyway. There are some people who think it was all a big hoax. I can tell you now, it wasn't. But yeah, all these conspiracy theories, COVID, year 2000, Brexit, etc., deemed in a lot of fact. If you look, lots of conspiracy theories based on not reading or delving enough deeper to understand the issue. But there we are. That was 3 great subjects. And Techmoan, unfortunately, he's still not well. And his videos do take up an awful lot of high studio sort of productivity. So it probably takes time for him to edit his stuff together. So I'm not surprised there, but I wish him well and I hope he gets better soon. The last time he came out, he said he had got flu and he was coming out the other side. So I'm expecting something in the next couple of weeks. Moving on, chronologically gaming, which a friend of mine, Denny, recommended to me about a year ago, and I've been watching ever since. Absolutely fantastic. Still in November 1982. Just goes to show what the gaming industry was like and how much was coming out across the world. He's been on November 82 for what it seems like 3 months now. God knows what it'll be like in December, the lead up to Christmas. When you consider the American market, my God, we're going to be there for quite some time. But still, absolutely fantastic. And I'm just really longing for 83 to come along. 83 was a massive year. So, what then did I watch? The Gadget Show. There was a number of things here. There was Can We Save Physical Media? Which obviously, you know, I'm quite passionate about. Didn't agree with everything that was said there, but understood it. Premium versus budget had a blender test this week. It was a toaster last week. And do video games really change your brain? Which was very interesting, really. It's like, yeah, if you sit in front of computer games, does your brain degrade or does it get better? And of course, it might be down to the type of games that you're playing. Very interesting subject. One that's not talked about too much, to be quite honest. I remember, I'm pretty sure my mum would be thinking, and my dad, you're supposed to be up there doing homework. How can you actually be educated by playing games? Not necessarily, mum and dad. You know, back in the day, I can understand it, and those things are still being talked about today. Fantastic. We then get to Retro Gamer Nation, who showed off a new Amiga shoot 'em up called Sky Shapers, I think it says there. Looked okay. Typical fare from what I could see, really, of Amiga shooters. But nice to see stuff being developed on old tech. So I'm always interested on that sort of stuff. There is a person that I've been sort of like following for some time now called Pugwell316. He did a live sort of watch along of a cartoon called Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned, which is a Marvel Dracula cartoon based on Tomb of Dracula, the comic book. I have the actual cartoon film. And it was nice to watch along and listen to what they were actually sort of like watching and what they were thinking of it. That was interesting. Really enjoyed that. So that's Pugwell 3:16. Absolutely brilliant. Hope you make a note of some of these titles. Then there was Buy It, Fix It. He had a Panasonic surround system SABIT 370, which was a surround system with built-in blue DVD, I think it was, player, and it was Can We Fix It? It was quite. I like all these fix it ones because I like to see whether they're simple little things like voltage regulators or whether there is some input output type switches which are like gates which are in permanently closed state because of a power overload and all of those sort of things. I do learn an awful lot about circuitry by watching some of these things. And then there was a site called Burst Error, which has done every Castlevania game a retrospective part 1 and 2, which is very interesting to me because Castlevania is a fantastically large IP for Konami. And I've played them on and off through the years. There have been some collections the last couple of years. There's one called Draconis and there's one called Legacy. Both quite expensive, really, to be quite honest. The Draconis one I haven't got, but it happens to have the one that has the arcade version of Castlevania, and they've done a revamp of it to modernize it. And that looked amazing to me. And yet I'd have to fork out 20 quid for that collection when I've got the Legacy collection. It's not for me at the moment, but in a sale. I've listed it down as one for me to buy in a sale. And that's what I watched on YouTube. But then I've got my section that's called Film, TV and Soundtrack YouTube, which is where I put some of my friends' stuff and some of the stuff that's wholly orientated towards film, TV and soundtrack. So we've started off with Ian Hill, The Ramblings, my friend. How can I not start without him? My God, look at the stuff he's done. Jesus, look, it takes up that much of my pad. God. Right. So we've got my top 5 crime films, 1982 to, I think it was 92, or was it 91 that we've got to. I forgot to write down the number to the right because he brings them out every day. So I didn't want to foretell whether he brought one out on Sunday or not. So I haven't got that written down. But he also did Doctor Who Black Orchid review. We Are All Show-Offs, Let's Chat. And that was unusual for him. He usually does just stuff, reviews and stuff, but he decided to do a let's get chatting about this. Are we all show-offs, us that do YouTube stuff, or are we all just show-offs in full stop? And I have to turn around and say, do you know what? What a fascinating thing to talk about. And in many ways, and I should think 80% I agreed with him. I don't show off my films at the end because I want to show off what I've bought, but I do it to tell my nephew and nieces what I bought this week. And it's interesting to show off some of the lovely designs that you get on some of these steelbooks. But are we all show-offs? Are we all people that want to show off just how much knowledge we've got, or give the impression of how much knowledge we've got? Because a lot of people that are out there, to be quite honest, they're reading Wikipedia and coming out as if it's almost like they've read a bluffer's guide. Do you know what I mean? And there's a number of sites I could mention and shame that are like that. Or they've got an album and they think they know everything that they know about the actual album, but they don't at all. They didn't even buy it at the time it came out. It's what they've read and learned, and what they've listened to, and their opinion of it, and that's fine. But don't come across like, the production values, what the year was like at the time that music was coming out. That's all stuff that you've probably just read and blurted out. And so, therefore, it was an interesting thing to come out with. And I enjoyed it immensely. And like I say, the friends that I know are not like that at all. I wouldn't call them show-offs. And even people who I used to know that still have got channels, absolutely fantastic knowledge they've got. Like I say, it's a shame that I don't listen to their sort of like stuff anymore, because there's so much knowledge that they could have partaken to me. But that's a choice I make. So there you are. But every one of those people, including the ones I've just mentioned, fantastic channels. You've got to sort of like watch them and understand them. And they do it in an entertaining way, and they do it to enlighten us and educate us. And from that point of view, every single one of them, I salute you for bringing out your stuff. Absolutely fantastic, all of you. And I will say that, all of you. He also did an X-Files Season 3, Episode 16 review. Which is a band, Soul Mining album review. He bought the SFX March 2025 magazine and reviewed that. And he did a live with me. Yes, on Wednesday. What can you say? More Del Boy. Got to have more of me, ain't you? I hope. So there you are. There's plenty of me to go around, I can tell you that now, and I'll do more if I can. It's one of those things where, yeah, a bit sticky in the mud. I have to wait until I'm sort of like invited, and it's very difficult for me to do live at the moment, because of, if I'm doing it, it's all of the before you switch on review, you know, the research and all of that sort of stuff. I'm a bit too much of a perfectionist, fiddly, faffy person, you know what I mean, rather than just switch it on and let's go, you know what I mean. But anyway, fantastic stuff. Thank you, Ian, for inviting me on. Love it. Please go and have a look at his channel. Fantastic. Another person you should go and visit is Playtendo Guy. He's done a couple of things this week. He's done Monster Hunter Lenticular PS5 unboxing. Looked lovely, by the way. Wish I had that money to buy that game. And then a little talk on Kathleen Kennedy. If you know that name or know what it's about, she's left Lucasfilms at last. But is it too late? She's listed and documented as being a person who's destroyed so many intellectual properties, IPs, Star Wars in particular. Is it too late to salvage those intellectual properties? Who knows? Time will tell. But she has left. So maybe things will return and not have any political agendas in them. We can only hope. Another fantastic channel, and one that I am not worthy to even kiss his shoes. And that is Mondo Chelovich Movies. He's done a Vinegar Syndrome subscription and sales pickups. Couldn't figure the word there. Subscriptions, of course. And 4K and Blu-ray pickups during February 2025. And oh my God, the amount of knowledge this guy's got and his production value is absolutely fantastic. Always trying to help people. That's what I like about Mondo Chelovich Movies. Long may he be around. And then Did You See That? Who got married last week. He continues. He's done the Monkey review. So it's a film called The Monkey. And I Heart Willie review. Very interesting reviews. Different takes on things. Very interested in The Monkey. And like I say, a great channel to go and have a little look at some movie reviews. Then we've got my mate Jim Jam, who I met last year, who's always out and about, getting stuff from charity stores, trying to cheer us all up with a big smile and a laugh. He had some friend mail this week, so that was quite good. It's always nice to get some mail from your friends and open it up and go, oh, look what my friend sent me. It's absolutely great. Again, not showing off. It's just great that some people think of other people and send them stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Then we've got Film Review Central. They did The Monkey review, so another review of The Monkey, which was slightly contradictory and different to Did You See That? Not too far off, but there you are. And then a 97th Academy Award prediction. And yes, it's Oscar Day today. So the 97th Academy Awards are tonight. They go off into the morning. And so there are some channels that are doing predictions. That was interesting, as is my friend who has done one as well, Through the Lens, Josh. You all know him. I've mentioned his channel a number of times. I love the way that he reviews films, much more comprehensive than some others. He's done his 97 Academy Award nominations ranked. So this is not predictions, it's the nominations that are ranked. Quite good, really enjoyed that. Then we've got Movie Collector. I've mentioned him before. He's an ex-projectionist. He did the Terminator 4K upgrade retrospective. Look at it compared to film. Always interesting to see the difference between the two. And then I just want to big up this next one, which is my friend Wee Bob Art. He's got a channel called Wee Bob. He started to do a community question. And his community question is genre-specific desert island movies, and he's asked for 7 movies from people on what you would take on a desert island with you. Always find those ones difficult. I'm going to have a little think. I'll probably give him my own answer, but it's just that, oh my god, so many genres, and so difficult to, because they're almost like my babies, you know, my films. It's like, can I really just take this one when I've got these 5 that I want to take with me, or whatever, or 10 or 100, you know? Why can't I have them all, you bastard? Why can't the whole ship have just landed and killed everybody off, and the electricity was still on the boat, and I can still watch my whole collection, you bastard? But it makes your brain think, and I already know that some of my friends have given an answer. So I will try and have a little think about that, because I always want to try and collaborate and help my friends out. And I think it would be really good for me to do something for Wee Bob at last. And then we get to, I think this is the last page. Yeah, this is the Game and Tech YouTube. This is what I used to call your YouTube, yeah? So we start off with the 2 people that I always have, which is Down the Rabbit Hole and Robert's Retro Gaming. So we got Down the Rabbit Hole. He did my Macro Enterprise X-Wing helmet is showing its wear. Yeah, so he's got this lovely helmet. It's a replica of an X-Wing helmet that you'd have in Star Wars. And it's been getting a bit yellow. The stickers are coming off. It's a bit more worse for wear. And he's explaining how he's going to restore it. Brilliant. Love that. And then he did, is Arcade Vanguard better than the Atari 2600 Vanguard, for which he thought the Atari 2600 one was. Somebody actually replied to him with, I think, the perfect answer, which is, you are playing it on an older version of MAME, and that older version of MAME has got parts of the game not working. So it's a bit difficult. He was speculating on what the music was in the game, which he got wrong. He thought it was from Star Wars. Wasn't at all. The 2 that I recognised straight away was Star Trek the Motion Picture and Flash Gordon the Motion Picture, you know, the ones with Brian Blessed's birds flying and so forth. It was that fanfare when they're flying towards Ming's palace to attack it. Great little soundtrack, by the way, by Queen. So I hope I helped him out a bit there. But I would recommend that it was SNK's first foray into arcade games, if I remember rightly. SNK, who gave us the Neo Geo, yeah? And it's a shoot 'em up, and it's a highly original type one, really, because it's not only sideways scrolling, it's vertically scrolling as well. Actually quite good, and it fires in 4 directions. Quite good, really. Not to everybody's tastes, like he said. So there we go. Robert's Retro Gaming. Oh my god. Well, you know full well this is going to be a page and a half of stuff. No Man's Sky episodes 24 to 25. Subnautica episode 14. Really nice to know he continues with that game. I know I'm biased because I bought it for him. It was a gift. But he seems to be having great fun with it. That's the thing that cheers me up no end. Not that I'm seeing how you play the game, but that he's having great fun with it. That's the thing. He did arcade gameplay of Green Beret, Atari 8-bit games, Kata Piggy, and One Man and His Droid, of which One Man and His Droid I'm very familiar with because of the Commodore 64 version. And then the one that cheered me up all week, which was the SNES version of Super Ghouls and Ghosts. I played that to death when I got my SNES. It was a launch title over here for the UK, along with Mario World and F-Zero. Or should I say it was darn close to a launch title. We got it very late. The SNES was much later in Europe than it was in North America and Japan. We were always the last to get anything. So by the time we got it, Mario was like 8 or 9 months old. You know, people had completed the game, done maps, Christ knows what. It was a bit bad for us. We were always like on the back foot in technology and stuff from Land of the Rising Hi-Fi, etc. They got theirs within months, if you see what I mean. There was not much of a wait for them. But I digress. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. There's a whole documentary about Super Ghouls and Ghosts. It was actually done by the designer of the arcade Ghouls and Ghosts. And he put in some of the thoughts and ideas that were going to be in the arcade machine that were thrown away and put them into this particular version. So the double jump, the land that grows and shrank, all of that sort of stuff was all going to be in the arcade game, didn't finally make it, and put into Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And did he come up with a product that was good? Oh my God, yes he did. Fantastic game. I'm not going to have a fight about whether the Mega Drive version is better than the SNES version, all of that sort of stuff. I just know I played the SNES one to death, loved it. And it had problems with slowdown. In fact, the slowdown was worse for us because we had a 50 hertz machine. So we had a slower clock processor than the American equivalent. So we suffered even more. So yeah, and I still loved it. Oh, I can still see me playing the ghost ship of it now. I'd be useless at it now. But there you are, loved it. Then we've got Salute, my friend, Robert. Salute down the rabbit hole. Salute, all those ones I mentioned before. I do apologise, not using that word so much. Steve's Gaming. Oh my God, what's he been doing? Everything, I think, just about. Let's have a little look. How not to play Elden Ring, again, because he brings them out like every day. The first one was episode 22, and I didn't write down what the last one was. Let's correct all this. Look, let me tell you where we are with it, shall we? So it was episode 22. Remember that I said he is up to 27. See what I mean? Episode 27, you bastard. 22 to 27. How many bloody episodes? Bastard. Home soft discs, episodes 41 to 43. Great music, awful game, episode 3. Great series, one that I'm at the moment not totally agreeing with. Some of the games that he's actually put on there, I've actually gone, do you know what? If you actually played that game, it's not that bad. But he's brought out 3, and 2 of them spot on. That's all I can say about that. BBC Games Not Played Before, episode 10, and Spectrum's Gregory Loses His Clock, which is a homage to the creator of that game, because he also did a game called Trapdoor, Popeye, and a number of others. And the guy died last year, and not many people mucked his death at all. A great loss when you hear of someone dying. A great loss as well when they actually brought out products that you played in your childhood. So fantastic. 20th Century Gaming, we move on. Salute, my friend Steve, you bastard. Fucking hate you, shit. 20th Century Gaming's done some this week. He did a Commodore 64 live stream where he played various games, including Spin Dizzy and a few others, which I just happened to caught the end of. But I managed to watch virtually all of the next one, which was a Commodore 64 Live as well, where he was playing Knight and Grail, which I'd never seen before, believe it or not. And I've watched his channel for a while. I must have just missed that one. That's a game I'd want to play. Jesus, it was one of these newer 2007 type games. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to look for that. My God, yeah. Maymeister, my mate Alan, what can I say? He brought out a Sunday night live stream. He did an 8-bit face-off of Fist 2, and he did a Friday waffle. Absolutely fantastic. The guy's having some issues, not at work. His life seems to be okay. He's happy at work. He's got a great girlfriend, great set of people that he can talk to about all of his problems. But that doesn't get over the fact that he's having a few hardship things that are going on at the moment, which he's finally coming out the other side of. So that's absolutely fantastic. And Colin Jones, aka Ponder, he did his Mainmeister High Score kerfuffle, which this week is the arcade game Carnival. What can we say about the arcade game Carnival other than it's a classic, absolute classic, rolled out to God knows how many home systems. A little gun firing at like a tin can alley type thing. Absolutely fantastic. Played that to death actually when in televisions, ColecoVisions and everything were around back in the day. So that's absolutely fantastic. So we now get to what I've bought this week, and it's starting to ramp up a little bit. Remember I was saying we were in a drought of stuff. Let's turn to the overhead cam, shall we? There we go. We'll just bring out some of these. Some of these you'll recognise and go, what the bloody hell you bought that for? Or, wow, I didn't know that was coming out. So there is, from Arrow, I think. No, it's 88 Films. Masters of the Universe. An old canon classic with Rolf Lundgren. Not the best of films that you'll ever see in your life. This is a nice deluxe set. I remember it as a kiddie watching it at the cinema. The one thing that I remember from it was actually the musical instrument, which was a space key, which the tune, I can even hear in the tune in my head now. Absolutely fantastic. But it's got some other firsts in there. It's got Courtney Cox from Friends in it. Before she was in Scream and all of that, and before Friends, of course. And you've also got the pilot that was in Star Trek Voyager. I've forgotten his name. Eluded me for now. But they were girlfriend and boyfriend in this film. Yeah, so Masters of the Universe, one of the final canon films before they went bust. Then we've got the HMV exclusive steelbook of Gladiator 2, which I saw late last year and quite enjoyed. It was actually great. It's a Ridley Scott film. What's not to like? The HMV version is limited edition and comes with slightly more. It's got a bonus disc and 6 art cards and costs the same price as the Xavier and Amazon version. So what's there not to like? It all depends on whether you like the picture on the front of this one or the front of the standard edition, I suppose, on that. Looking forward to watching that on 4K. Then we've got a film that, oh my God, is divisive. It's Francis Ford Coppola's rendition of Megalopolis, which, if you know anything about, was a silent science fiction film back in the 20s. Was it 30s? Late 20s anyway. Francis Ford Coppola brought this out, and it was what some consider to be a mixed mess. I looking forward to watching it again, because I myself got confused watching this film. Not the easiest thing to actually understand too much. One that we watched last week in digital format, and I mentioned it, and it's apt for today because it's the Academy Awards. I bought on Blu-ray California Suite, which, as you can see, has got Walter Matthau in, Michael Caine. It's got Maggie Smith and Jane Fonda. Some great stuff there. It is foreign. It's the only way I could get it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing whether it's different to my digital copy. I always remember loving it when I saw it when it was on telly. I think it was on Movie Drome again, It's very much a drama-based thing. Enjoyed watching it last week. Looking forward to that again this week. That was all the films, by the way. And then, as always, these omnibuses, they just seem to be coming out left, right and centre. It's costing me an absolute fortune. This one is Spider-Man by David Michelini and Eric Larson. Eric Larson being the artist, Michelini being the writer. This fits into my omnibuses after Ron Friends and before... No, after McFarlane as well, and before Bagley. Yeah. So these are all the issues that it covers. Look, which is Amazing Spider-Man issues 287 to 324, plus 327, plus 329 to 350. It's a lot of issues. It covers obviously more work than that. There is Spider-Man issues 15, 18, 21 to 23. Amazing Spider-Man annuals 19 and 21. There are issues as well from Marvel Comics Presents, issues 48 and 50. Yeah, Spider-Man got about a bit, to be quite honest, as you can see from all those covers. I'm looking forward to looking at this book. I haven't read those issues for quite some time, and it covers a huge block. So we'll switch back to the new camera just for a moment. And we'll get to the trailers. Now, normally I'd give you some trailers based on the films that I bought this week, plus what I watched on TV. But as you know, Gene Hackman died this week. I watched, therefore, from Friday religiously the next set of films that you're about to see the trailers for. Every single one of them, an absolute corker. In fact, one of them, you're going to see the sequel to the film that I actually watched as well, but Gene Hackman wasn't in the trailer much. You'll see which one we'll talk about when you actually get to it, because it's the sequel. It's the only one that has a sequel, so you'll know. But Gene Hackman, his presence, what can I say? Absolutely fantastic. So let's turn desktop audio on. Let's go to media playback. You can see I'm all ready to go, and I'll turn the mic off now, and you can look at these trailers. Hope they work out for you. Absolutely every single one of these films you're about to see is a goddamn favourite of mine, and would definitely be, at least I think, on a desert island with one of them, Wee Bob Art. But which one? Not quite sure. Got to think about your categories. Here we go. Hope you like these trailers. Please support the cinema. If you think any of these trailers look good, please go out and watch them. I recommend every single one of them. Back in a moment.
As you no doubt heard, my exo has appendicitis. Your name was at the top of the list.
That's good to know, sir.
It was a short list.
There's trouble in Russia. So they called us. And we're going over there and bringing the most lethal killing machine ever devised.
The last time we hit this state of emergency was 32 and a half years ago during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this is what it's all about, gentlemen. It's what we train for.
Submerge the ship.
Diving officer, submerge the ship, make it depth 150 feet.
On the 1MC. Dive, dive.
This year,
We have a properly formatted emergency action message from National Command Authority.
what we've always known
Bravo, Echo, Charlie, Alpha.
becomes what we've always feared.
Telling this to the captain, Russian rebels have threatened to launch against our country and are fueling right now. This is not a drill.
Now,
Sir, we have a possibly submerged submarine.
You find out who that is.
Receiving emergency action message. Recommend alert 1.
the battle for survival begins.
That's a message fragment.
Sir, we don't know what this message means. Our target package could have changed.
I've made a decision.
There's no place for fear.
He's lost his nerve.
I'd rather go out myself and get this one wrong.
There's no room for mistakes.
If we launch and we're wrong, what's left of Russia is going to launch at us.
I'm captain of this boat. I don't have to think this over.
There's no time for doubt.
Missile system's ready to launch in 6 minutes.
You repeat this order or I'll find somebody who will.
Hell no, you won't, sir.
And nothing can stop the tide.
missiles unless both you and I agree.
They're fueling their missiles.
It's right on top of us!
Please, Commando, under arrest, under charge of mutiny.
Roger, lock Captain Ramsey's in his stateroom.
Fire one, now! Give me the missile key, Mr. Hunter. Sir, we are going down. I'm the commander of this ship.
Crimson Tide.
God help you if you're wrong.
If I'm wrong, then we're at war. God help us all.
Superman 2. The adventure continues with the 3 villains from Krypton. Each one with the same powers as Superman. Each one dedicated to violence against mankind.
Think of it. 3 supervillains. Or 4 if you count him twice.
The adventure continues in Paris with Lois Lane.
I believe this is your floor.
And the romance continues. The adventure continues in Washington. The world is on the brink of destruction.
Superman, can you hear me?
And Metropolis is in ruins.
Superman, help us!
Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Superman!
General, would you care to step outside?
Revenge.
Revenge!
Revenge! Now we're cooking, huh?
The big one's just as strong as Superman.
If you've only seen the first part, you haven't seen the best part. The adventure continues in Superman 2.
This is a world of hidden mics and two-way mirrors. A world where nothing is private.
Do you think we can do this?
Later in the week.
Do you think we can do this?
Harry Cole is an expert. The best there is.
Let me tell you something about Harry Cole. The best, bar none. I'll drink to that.
Best what?
The best bugger on the West Coast.
What about me?
He can bug anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Nobody knows how you did it, though, Harry. Caused a hell of a scandal, too.
Look, do you see him? The man with the hearing aid, like Charles. He's been following us all
They're not people to him, just voices.
3 people were murdered, that's all.
He doesn't know them, and they don't know him.
It had nothing to do with me. I mean, I just turned in the tapes.
Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I've been involved in some work that I think will be used to hurt these 2 young people. No, we're responsible. I'm not responsible.
You're not supposed to feel anything about it. You're just supposed to do it.
Be careful, Harry. You're just supposed to listen. Not look, not feel, not care.
Yes. How'd you get this phone number?
We prepare a full dossier on everyone.
That's terrific. The bugger got bugged, huh?
Do you have secrets, Harry? I know you do. Telling me about yourself? Your secrets?
I don't have any secrets. Don't get involved in this, Mr. Cole. Those tapes are dangerous.
Come on, Harry. Show and tell. How do you do it?
Why are you asking me all these questions?
Gene Hackman is Harry Call in The Conversation. There is nothing private about The Conversation. Listen.
My name is Harry Call. Can you hear me? This is my town! If you live to see the dawn, it's because I allow it. I decide who lives or who dies.
In a town called Redemption, death is a way of life. Some fight for money. Some fight for glory. But one stranger has come here, looking for something else.
I now declare the quick draw competition open. Anybody can challenge anybody.
Sign me up.
Sure must want to die young, miss.
She can play their game.
Want to play poker with me, little lady?
Looks like you're having a pretty good time playing with yourself.
She can beat their odds.
Did you ever kill anyone?
Sure.
I don't think you have.
But there's one thing she can't do.
Why are you really here? You're no gunfighter.
Forget the past.
String him up. Put him on a chair.
Some people deserve to die.
TriStar Pictures presents Sharon Stone.
I'm gonna kill you if I have to ride all the way to hell to do it.
Gene Hackman.
There's nothing on this earth that frightens me now. Nothing.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hey, my face.
In a film by Sam Raimi. The Quick and the Dead. In this town, you're either one or the other.
And there's the trailers, and what a loss, Gene Hackman. Every single one of those films I watched this week, and you're probably wondering, why didn't you watch some of the ones that he won an Oscar for? Well, I've actually watched those quite recently, and I'll probably be watching more Gene Hackman this week. But The Quick and the Dead, I keep thinking that not many people know that film, but my God, what a film for me that is. It's all the camera angles. Way Sam Raimi did the gunfights, you know, the moving left to right or the moving away of the camera angle and the zooming in. It's all Hitchcock type cinematography that have been used for years, but combine that with the film and the performance by Gene Hackman, that speech that he gave, you know, that the only reason that you see the sunrise is because I allow you to see the sunrise. I mean, he's just a dominating presence in that film. And then Crimson Tide, what can you say? It's so pertinent now, you know, with all this talk of World War III and so forth, but it's the music by Hans Zimmer in that film as well, which you probably only heard a snippet of at the end. But it's such a great film done by Tony Scott, sadly not with us anymore. I mean, Ridley Scott's been my favorite director for years. The Conversation I bought literally only last year in 4K, a Francis Ford Coppola film. And you could probably guess the sequel to Superman was Superman 2. And it's because in the Superman 1 trailers, you hardly see Gene Hackman at all. And I thought there was a couple of little lines in there that sum up some of the comedy Gene Hackman gave. And I could name so many other films that he's been in that are just worthy of your attention. But if you can go and see Unforgiven, please do so. Another, a film that he won an Oscar for. And that's it, really. Like I say, a sad loss. And every week, my childhood just shrinks more and more. And with that, I wish I could give you a happy note. A happy note to end on. Other than I'm all right. I'm alive. My mum's alive. I'm just about to see if she wants another cup of tea, even though she's just had one. Fill her up with tea, that's what I call it. And we'll see you next time. Next week, I should think. I hope you have a great week. Salute to everybody out there. I hope you've liked this. And I hope you've enjoyed watching it. And with that, same bat time, same bat channel next week. Bye-bye.